In this video, I am going to be going over every single mid-priced option you should consider in AFL Fantasy. In fact, I am going to be making an entire team of mid-priced players, so let's jump straight into it. Starting it off in the backline, we have our most expensive player at $804,000. It's Kane Farrell. And after him, every single one of the other players featured in this video will be under $800,000 and priced under $80. So, Kane Farrell has been a pretty popular option, and he is in my actual team right now. Farrell has worked around the halfback for a few years at Port now and saw a 10-point jump in his scoring last year. However, he has always been stuck behind Dan Houston, but that is about to change in 2025. All signs point towards Farrell becoming the main distributor at Port Adelaide in 2025, and if and when this happens, his scoring will likely see another big increase. Houston took 80 kick-ins last year, so even if Farrell receives just half of those, there is already a 6-point increase. He is definitely a must-watch, and could maybe be getting closer to lock status. The next mid-pricer is Callum Mills, coming in priced at 74. He's averaged well over 100 before, and obviously his role is a bit more up in the air now than it was then, but even so, he is priced way unders. Mills has proven his elite scoring abilities, and with that, he should really be able to improve regardless of where he is put on the field. At the exact same price, we have Harry Perryman. Perryman has moved from the Greater Western Sydney Giants to Collingwood this season, and this club change could prove to be great for his AFL fantasy average. Perryman averaged over 85 for 2 seasons prior to 2024. So at this price point, he is already more than 10 points underpriced, but with the club change, it could be even more. A watch over the preseason, but if he has a decent role, definitely one to consider. The only issue is a lot of these mid-priced options have the round 3 bye, so we do want to avoid getting too many players on this bye. As I say that, I have just realised that I forgot to include Matt Roberts, who will slot in behind Farrell. Roberts made his debut in 2023, averaging just 30, but he came back much stronger in 2024. He averaged 60 in his first 13 games of the season, and with a move to the halfback, he was able to average 104 in the last 7 games. He now comes in priced at 76. The real question is Matt Roberts priced 15 points overs or 30 points unders? Likely neither, but he should be on your watch list now, if he isn't already. The 5th defender I have is Josh Weddle. Maybe a bad one, maybe not. I haven't heard too much talk about it, but I like it a lot. It became clear last year that Weddle was a far better player than was allowed by his role, so I think something will change this year and it will benefit his scoring whatever it is. I think it is most likely he will push further up the ground, but Hawthorn will take more advantage of his versatility and running ability. I expect him to be anywhere and everywhere, and although he probably won't get the key distributor role that I once questioned, Weddle will almost certainly improve on his average of 59. He is simply a way better player than that. You should all know the last defender by now, but it's Kitty Coleman. I talk about him every vid, so I won't say much here. He is priced at 50 after averaging over 75 the years he played before missing 2024 with injury. In his last 10 games before the injury, he averaged just under 94. Coleman is certainly a must-have in my books. I will do the bench at the end, but don't worry, they will all be mid-prices too. Now to the midfield, where there are plenty of good options. The most expensive being Clayton Oliver. Like Coleman, I talk about him every video, so we will keep it short. Oliver is a gun, or at least he has shown us that he is capable of being one. He's missed a fair bit of footy, and he is now priced like 40 points under what he has previously done. He probably won't get back to the peak of his powers, but he doesn't even have to. He is a must-have. Next up is Finn Callaghan, who I only recently started considering. Finn is young and a potential future star of the competition. He averaged 76 in 2024, showing us a pretty decent ceiling, but also a few flaw scores. With GWS exiting the finals in straight sets, it is likely a few things will be changing at the club, and Finn is probably one of those. Callaghan had 40% of the centre bounces last year, but I think in 2025 he will move in as the second banana behind Tom Green. James Peatling, who has now left for the Crows, had 40%, which Finn will receive a portion of. There is also Josh Kelly and Stephen Caniglio, who had 40 and 60% respectively. They are both getting old now, and I think the Giants may invest in their youth a bit more, particularly Callahan. The main turn-off with picking him is the early buy. I now have a pair of Blues who are priced very similarly. They are Sam Doherty and Adam Chera. This Carlton duo offers plenty of value, priced in the mid to low 70s, with Chera being about $40,000 cheaper. I've talked about Doherty a bit because he is heavily discounted after missing a fair bit of footy from injury. Doherty has consistently averaged over 100 before, and even 110 for one season. We were a bit uncertain about what his role will be, but now Nick Newman is out for the entire season, and if he is given the role at halfback, he would be a must-have. For now, however, he is a watch over the preseason. Chera too has scored far better in the past, with his 3 seasons prior to 2024 being over 87 averages and 2023 being just under 100. Chera will be 25, whereas Doherty is 31, so I think I would lean towards Chera if I had to pick one. Doherty has done the huge scores before, but I think Chera is more likely to do it moving forward. Even if he doesn't, he is still at least 20 points underpriced. At a very similar price to the last 4 is Will Day. Day comes in at $760,000, which is 74 points. When Day came back from injury, he was eased back into the team for the first 2 weeks, but after that, he averaged over 90 for the next 11 games. Will Day is a genuine gun, and I'm not just saying that because I go for the Hawks. He's now 23, about to enter the prime of his career, and an average in the 70s is just way below his capabilities. In 2023, he averaged in the high 90s, and I think he will be around this mark again, maybe pushing the 100. He does have an early buy, which does make him slightly less appealing. Another pair now, this time from the Crows. They are James Peatling and Isaac Cumming, who have both arrived at their new club from the Giants. Peatling is priced at 60 and Cumming at 55, but I expect both to build on these averages by like 30 points or more. When Peatling wasn't the sub, he averaged over 90 with a ceiling of 133, and with a good role at the Crows, he could push his average into the high 90s and beyond. Cumming has also averaged over 90 before, and I believe he will also receive a much better role at the Crows than the one he had at the Giants. Both are must-haves, as far as I'm concerned. The final midfielder is Nathan O'Driscoll. I talked about him in my team reveal video, although he doesn't currently sit in my updated side. O'Driscoll is someone who has been flagged with breakout potential. O'Driscoll only played the 2 games, and in one, it was sub-affected. The game he was playing full-time, he scored 79. I think he could average between 60 and 70 possibly. I just worry that there isn't really a role for him at Freo. Once again, I will do the bench at the end. The rucks are a very interesting one and could be what sets you apart from everyone else. Just before we get to that, I need to give my little speech about subscribing. So please subscribe everyone who hasn't already. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers before the season starts, and we are doing really well, but it would be even better with your help. Thanks, that's all. Back to the rucks now. The first one I have to consider is Sean Darcy. Darcy is priced at 78, or just under 800,000. He has previously averaged mid-90s twice, so there is potentially value there. He only played the 12 games due to multiple injury, but in non-injury affected games he averaged over 80. And in 2023, he averaged a huge 102 in games that he didn't get injured. These injuries are the problem though. Darcy is one of the most injury-prone players in the comp, so even if there is heaps of value, it is still a huge risk to pick him. The other mid-pricer I have is Matt Flynn. Flynn only played the 4 games at an average of 61 and a high score of 89. This was far down on his previous 3 seasons at the Giants, where at times he was able to push his average into the high 70s. He did have an injury-affected game though, and if you take that out, he averaged 68, which is a bit more respectable. We need to see if he is in the team and how his role would work around Bailey Williams first, however. Now to the forwards, and I'll put the middle four straight in, because you should already know who they are. If you don't know, they are Bailey Smith, Jack Macrae, Caleb Daniel, and Mateus Philippou. The first three all moved clubs where they will hopefully all be given the roles they deserve. Philippou should just carry on from where he left off, and the four of them all offer 20 to 40 points of upside. Maybe even 50 points for Smith and Daniel. Anyway, they are all must-haves. The question of who to put at F1 is a far harder one to answer. Now, I have a feeling a few of you are going to disagree with me here, but I have Jy Simpkin. Simpkin only averaged 76 in 2024, although this was brought down a lot by some poor scoring early. When he came back from missing 4 games, he averaged 90 for the rest of the season. By the way, I am shocked that Simpkin is 26. I always thought he was like 33, but I guess I was way off. Anyway, Jy has averaged over 95 twice before, in 2021 and 2022. With the youngsters coming through at North, I don't know if he will have enough centre bounces to get into the high 90s, but mid to high 80s is more than possible. So that's why he's in this team. The final on-field spot came down to 2 people, and I have decided right now that it's going to be Riley Sanders. The other option was Shea Bolton, by the way. Sanders is coming in at 656,000, which is 64 points. This 64 points isn't too accurate though, because his score was affected by either being the sub or being subbed in 5 games. And if Luke Beveridge stopped messing around with him and his role, I'm sure he would have done much better. This is why I think Sanders provides a lot of value. He has a habit of showing Beveridge what he is capable of, because when he went back into the VFL throughout the season, he averaged a huge 116. Now in 2025, I think he will show his coach exactly why he should have been in the team all season. I'll go through the mid-prices on the bench quickly. In the forward line, I have Jed Walter first. Walter was picked 2 in the last draft, but only played 14 games at an average of 34. Now, I'm not suggesting we pick him in our teams just yet, but I'm just saying I believe he will improve on this, probably around a high 40 average. I saw some clips of him playing in some league the other day, or maybe it was just a training, but he genuinely looked crazy good. I reckon he will have a big impact in the overall comp in 2025. The other forward I've got is Jacob Bauer. To be honest, in this price range, it's difficult to find anyone. Jacob averaged 45 last year in 3 games, so he receives a discount. He's scored a few hundreds in the VFL, so maybe at a struggling Richmond, he could put up a good average. We'll go to the midfield now, and the first bench warmer I have is Jackson Binns, or Binsey. One day, Jackson will get a solid run in the team, and when he does, it will be a glorious day for fantasy coaches. He averages a whopping 110 over his entire career in the VFL, including a 197 and a 171, which is just insane. He played 3 games in the AFL last year, although one he was subbed on for like no time. But in round 23 and 24, he played full game time and scored a 69 and a 71, which are right around what he can average. Maybe with Newman injured, Doherty could go back and Binns could come into the side, or maybe not. Kane McAuliffe is the other one I have. Like Binns, McAuliffe has put up some great numbers in the VFL, averaging over 100. He just hasn't been able to translate this scoring into the AFL, yet. In games that weren't sub-affected, he averaged 50 in about 70% time on ground. I reckon he can push this average upwards with a better and more stable role, which he will surely get. There's probably like 15 points of value here. In the backline, we first have Jackson Pryor. Pryor will be heading into his 5th season, and he's never really produced any great scores in the AFL. The VFL is a different story, where he has averaged consistently over 90 with plenty of tons. He only had 4 AFL games last year, including a sub-affected 11 and 42. In his other 2 games, he averaged just under 60, including an 83. We probably shouldn't start any of these people I'm talking about on the bench, but I'm using it as a way to demonstrate that there are far more players that present value than just the 3 or 4 you typically hear about. Anyway, we'll push on here. Connor O'Sullivan may be one to watch. He only played the one game and scored just 40, but I've heard a few good things about him. Dan Curtin now in the utility. Whether you consider him a mid-pricer or not is one thing, but he has played before, so I'm counting it. Curtin only averaged 32, but when he wasn't sub or subbed, he averaged over 50, and in the Sandful, he averaged close to 80. He is one we actually should start. So that is the mid-pricer only team. And honestly, with a bit of tweaking and putting some of the good rookies in here, this could be a very competitive team, I think. That's it for today. See you later.